inspired to keep on moving, to doing things again and again, to get out there when you're not sure if you actually reach the people, when you're not sure if your message comes across. What is your incentive to go do things? I know a lot of people, they are a little bit like getting in front of the camera. That's a little bit hard. I don't know if I want to. And quite honestly, that was the same for me. Nowadays, I just say, I'm so used to being in front of the camera. Well, the only thing is basically that I'm like, I don't know how sleepy I look or how pale I look, but it's about the message. So it doesn't really matter what I look like as long as the message gets across. Now today I was working on the training again. So as you may know, I'm doing the Chicago Courage Challenge. And well, talk about a challenge. This is not just to get the challenge out there. Well, actually it is because it comes to marketing. But it's a combination of getting the emails out there, getting the modules in the right order out there. And I have to say, ever since I started, nothing has gone the way it was supposed to go. So I am proud to say that I am taking things to a higher level. So that's good. But, oh my God, the amount of work, I absolutely have underestimated the amount of work. Now, when we talk about incentives and inspiration, which is module number 3, then normally I would refer to the why, which in my case is I want to leave a legacy. And yesterday, talking to a number of my coaching clients, I realized that what I want is to help people change their lives so they see perspective again, so they are taken seriously, so they can actually start living their life in the best way possible. And that's not always easy, and I'm the first one to know this. I mean, I've had my struggles, and yesterday, talking to one of my clients and going down memory lane, what it was like for me, not being taken seriously, and what the results were of that, still not being able to stand for a long time and, being limited in the walking and all that stuff. It's, it's about setting boundaries, recognizing boundaries, telling yourself no when certain things can't go on. But that's easier said than done, because if you got raised, because in such a way, how do I say this? It's about people not believing you. And if you grow up where people are telling you or showing you that they do not believe you and they just brush things off, well, that's a bit of a problem, because your mindset is related to what people are showing you and telling you. So my mindset back in the days became, okay, well, this is about I need to keep on going. So yeah, sure, I can have pain and I can be tired, but no one cares. So if I want to get things done, I need to do it myself. And if that means crossing some boundaries, and I didn't even think about crossing boundaries, that's the whole thing. Now, having been through a lot, which took a lot of time, I don't want anyone else to go through that same ordeal, let's put it that way. And especially when I'm working with the younger ones, if I can prevent them from going through the same, I would almost say heartache, because it does something, then, that would be amazing. So yes, I do talk, I do explain, and I know that by explaining things and also sharing, like, yeah, I know what you're going through. You know, things, they're like, oh, there's a real person who has actually experienced it and actually understands me and is open to help me out. So that's good. Um, so Beefy says, it is necessary to learn to believe in yourself, then others will believe in you too. And that's so true. But in order to get people to believe in themselves, they sometimes need someone to believe in them and explain them why certain things are happening. And well, that took me down memory lane yesterday. I can tell you that much. But thinking today about my inspiration to get the stuff out there was actually not related to that part of the why at all. I do have to say though that when it comes to getting a message out there, so those are two different things, the legacy and the message versus getting the challenge out there. Now, going back one moment to the legacy and the message, a lot that I share has to do with what I actually observe. And I'm not sure how it happened, but at some point I was looking up stuff from the Scorpions. And what I didn't know is that two of the oldest members are actually from 1948. So that makes them like either 75 or 76. So I think they were on their last tour. I've never seen them live, which is one of those things that I sort of regret. My mom didn't want me to go to concerts. I never asked my dad. When I was in my teens, and that's when all those bands were out there, and by the time that I started working and was able to drive my own car, they didn't perform anymore. And then at some point they started performing again, and things happened, so I lost track of what was going on in the music world. But this time around I was looking at the band, and I looked up some stuff, and I was like, oh my god, they're from 1948. And I remember going to Chicago with Joe, and before that we talked about seeing Tom Jones. And I'm not sure why I saw him in Amsterdam. It was a spur of the moment thing. I saw him perform, and I believe there were still tickets. And having lost my mom, I realized that I might never be able to see him perform. Now, I'm not necessarily a huge Tom Jones fan when it comes to his music, but when it comes to his voice, his emotions, well, that's a whole different ballgame. So I wanted to see him because I was like, this might be his, you don't know how long he has lived, might be his last concert. And so when I saw him, I said to Cheeky Joe, you need to see him too. And we talked about doing so in England. And then we got to see him in Chicago, which was actually quite unexpected. And we went to the Chicago Theater. It was a big old theater, very beautiful. And we had a great time. And, well, I started hearing some of his stories for the second time, but realizing what he had actually, well, I didn't know that. I mean, I knew him from the 90s and the stuff that he got out there, but I didn't know about his time when he was performing with Elvis Presley and all those people. And I was like, oh my God, he's from the rock and roll era. And, it was mind-blowing if you think about it. So yeah, being able to go there to Tom Jones with Cheeky Joe, and by the way, we were on the L train, we looked down from the platform, we wanted to take a picture of the Chicago theater because it looked so great. They said, did you see that? Tom Jones is performing tomorrow. And that's how we got there. That's how we got the tickets and actually went to see him. And now getting back to the Scorpions, I am aware of their age. So the oldest one are in the 70s. Actually, the younger one, not the youngest one, but the younger one is, well, he needs to have surgery. So they've canceled the last 5 shows in Germany until they can actually get out there on tour again. And I was like, okay, so here's someone in his 60s who cannot perform while the persons in their 70s can. Now, here we get back to being able to get out there, being not just in a mentally good shape, but also in a physically good shape. Well, some of you might know that this week I've been to a number of hospitals, I've done a number of tests. Number of things are good, number of things can be improved, so that's good. But of course, that, well, trying to get my challenge out there, recording things live, in the meanwhile still talking to the clients, and then having all these doctor visits, well, it sort of clashes a little bit time-wise. But here's the thing. Talking about the inspiration and all that stuff, I was like, but I'm going to make this work. There's no way that I'm not going to make this work. And with every feedback I get, and fortunately there are people who are giving me feedback, I'm like, okay, yes, I need to catch up with the email system. And well, with all the other stuff going on, that's a little bit hard. So I don't know, I don't think I ever got outside yesterday. I've been on the phone for hours, that's what I know. And I've been sleeping for a number of hours because I was so tired. And then there was the Scorpions. And, you know, listening to some interviews, all that stuff. And at some point I was like, okay, I woke up and was like, I need to get going again. I need to get ahead of the whole email thing and get those modules in the right order out there. Well, they're getting out there, right order. Well, that's basically playing catch up because module number 6 is out there, but the ones before that, well, they need some more attention. But the thing is, it's not just about writing, it's also about recording videos. And well, I've had Friday Night Live, and then after Friday Night Live, it's about getting the stuff out there, getting the snippets out there. So those things continue on too. But like I said, whereas normally my why is related to getting a message out there, creating a legacy, and then I get back to basically the Scorpions, Tom Jones, music and all that stuff. The singer from Great White, Jack Russell, who passed away all of a sudden. We don't know how long we've got. So yes, we want to get the message out there. And I was looking at them perform and I was like, oh my God, they're still doing it. And they're having fun with it. And that gives me the incentive to actually, you know, work on it a little bit more. Now, that's still not the reason why I got to do the things that I did last night and this entire week for the challenge, because that's simply stubbornness. I want to get it out there. I have said to myself, I'm going to take it to the next level. I've got someone who holds me accountable. But it's the mere fact that, you know, every time I change something I get out there, then it's just this little thing that doesn't add up. Today I was like, okay, I need to make sure that it says click on the button. And then what didn't I do? I didn't put the right link behind it. So I actually resent the email, and that was with the button that didn't go to the right link. And I was like, yeah, I want people to know that the new module is out there. And, you know, the cool thing is I could also go through my own blog post and see what I actually already had shared, in this case about courage. And the first module was about courage, is about courage. And I've done a number of blog posts about these. So I also have got this module, which is about Chicago. And that's the thing. I thought it's one video, one email related to one module. And then, of course, Kajabi came up with all the other things, like case studies. And so I was like, oh my God, when is it sending what out there? And I'm just looking at it, and the moment that I see it, it's more of an incentive. I need to make this work. I need to do this the right thing. I need to get it out there in the right order. And I know that for the ones who already subscribed, I cannot undo that. And that's okay. I can communicate like, hey, things didn't go the way they should go. But that's okay. And for now, I want to show myself, and of course, since people have subscribed, I want to live up to what I've promised, which is you're getting access to the course. And so, oh my God, all these new things to consider and to think about. It's a lot, I'll honestly say. But on the other hand, it feels so good. It makes me like, I want to fight for this. I want to... The incentive to improve myself, well, it's as if the stakes are getting higher because I shared about it, I'm talking about it, and when I do so, then of course it makes sense to actually live up to those expectations. I mean, I've used the example a number of times to other people, and I said, you know, if I wouldn't be doing the work, then what kind of coach am I? How can I give an example if I don't do the work myself? How can I be that role model? So, well, that means that I need to go do stuff. Of course, there are some other reasons too. But at this moment, it's literally being stubborn. Literally like, oh no, that system is not going to get the better of me. No. I'm going to succeed. Now, talking about courage, I shared a few things. So the system was like, okay, if you talk about this topic, then what are the 3 main reasons for people to actually keep on watching? So you send an email, it's about the topic, and then what are the 3 reasons that they're like, yes, now I need to watch this? And I started working on it a couple of days ago. And I was looking at it and I was like, no, I need to change certain things. So basically what I did was I wrote an entire PDF, which is basically a blog post. And it was nice to actually come up with those reasons why. And the main reason why I'm doing this challenge, besides that I love Chicago and I want people to come with me and have that trip in Chicago so I can coach them to the next level, while meanwhile showing them that amazing city. It's about encouraging people, motivating people to start taking that first step, or to start retaking that first step. So when I describe the whys, I basically said, don't you get tired of, well, I said it a little bit differently, but that's what it comes down to saying to yourself, I need to do this, but then you don't get around to it, you don't have the time, or you don't feel like it, you're too tired, you don't have the energy, you are not getting in the flow. And well, that means that basically if you have a list, it remains on that list, and even if it's not on the list, it's in your mind, and you know, it keeps looping because you know you haven't done it. And realizing how important it is, because I know there are people out there who want to, but they just can't seem to get themselves to go do it. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to write down the other reasons, got sort of the blog post out there. It's not really a blog post, but it could serve as a blog post. And I uploaded that, and that actually felt kind of good. So there were the 3 reasons why and 7 steps, like what to go do. And what I actually wanted to share, and what I didn't share, is the story about how I said I was going to do this. And I was like, but what's that one step I can take? And then I realized, okay, it's opening up my iPad and looking at the stuff, looking at the page, looking at what's out there. And by looking at it again, getting reacquainted with it again, realizing that I hadn't succeeded with all those pipelines and funnels the way I wanted to before. Having talked with Brennan actually about it, who said, don't go to the next thing, but start tweaking and changing. And he's so right. It's not about doing the next thing and still not succeeding. It's about improving that other thing by doing what it takes. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing what it takes. And with every step I take, it's kind of cool to actually see the difference. It's kind of cool to realizing that I'm learning new stuff. I mean, you would have thought that I would record a video about the use of social media, especially when you don't have much money to spend, but how you can actually make it work. So, for instance, here on Instagram, it's also related to Facebook. It's also related to YouTube. Well, that's when I use StreamYard. But, you know, you can actually make those things work. And now creating those courses and actually seeing, oh, so one of those courses is actually referring to the modules. So I write down some text and then I'll refer to it. And then there's another lesson, which actually is related to an actual video or to the other stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've been working on this for quite some time. But like I said, this is about being stubborn. No matter what happens, this is going to get out there. I'm going to make it happen and inspire other people. So when they know, and I know there are a lot of people out there, especially the entrepreneurs and the solopreneurs, they get stuck when it comes to certain things like marketing. So they know what they want to get out there. They are probably very good at what they're doing. But that one topic, how can people find me? How do I work with nowadays social media online? That's so different. So, yeah, you just need to start it. Indeed, fingers crossed. And that's what I talked about. So I literally said, it's about telling yourself, I'm going to do it. And then I added a little thing. If you don't do it, then you are telling your brain you're not trustworthy. And so consciously, we are very good at postponing things. And so it's true, you can still take it to a higher level and give yourself time to do so. But here's the thing, we are so good when we don't set a date and we just say in the future I'm going to, that we allow ourselves to actually slip, as in not do it because, well, I have time tomorrow, I have time the day after. And then I get back to the beginning of what I shared on this video. We don't know how long we've got. And that's why I was looking at the guys, looking how they were moving around, how they were singing. And I was like, okay, so they are still out there and they're doing a great job. But there are also other people who already passed away in their 60s. And we don't know. We don't know how long we've got. That's basically, and that's something that I've always felt during my entire life. And of course, being confronted with not being able to walk, stand, sit on 2 feet. So sitting, you rest your weight on a chair and on your feet. And then when you've got something on your lap and you cannot hold that weight, that's a big setback. That's what I can say. So I know that when it comes to taking advantage of the opportunity, well, of course, we can say this needs to go first and then the other things need to go. But I also am very aware that I'm over half a century old. And things don't get back to normal as easily as they did. And, well, having had a setback in the beginning because people didn't believe me, and I'm talking about when I was growing up, but then on the other hand, having an advantage because I don't want anyone to go through the same thing. So that's my why. It's like, okay, I need to really get working on this. Oh, so let's see what's said. Not like postponing, but just give yourself a little more time to get it fully done. Yes, I understand what you're saying, but that's the thing. So I give myself grace. So certain things are not done in the time that I wanted them to be done. And I know why. One of the things has to do with all the hospital visits. Then, of course, other people needed my attention. There were things going on which were very important. And, well, it was more work than I actually had anticipated. But that makes sense. It's sort of kind of new. So sort of I already did it and then I got stuck and now I went on. But for me, I said I'm going to go live and talk about my challenge every day. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go live. As for the Friday Night Lives, they also keep going because I said a while ago I'm going to go live and every week do the Friday Night Live. Same with the Monday motivational message. And yes, I give myself grace. It has happened twice now this month that I actually didn't get it out there in time. And I was like, yeah, I didn't get out there in time, but that's no reason to postpone, to not do it. So I actually did get it out there, but it's like every once in a while. But at the same time, seeing where I'm going, and that's one of I think that was the 7th step, was like, be proud of yourself because you're doing it. And it's when we see things and we are like, oh my God, that's this big. I need to do this, that, and the other. That's basically what stops people dead in their tracks. Like, oh no. I can't do that. That's way too much. I don't know the techniques. I don't have someone who can help me out. But then, when I'm talking to other people and I share some of the things that I'm observing and we conclude, oh, but that means there is improvement going on. And then it's like, yeah, so I need to keep on going. I really need to keep on going. So when it comes to inspiration and incentives, the reasons to do it, there can be a multitude of reasons to go do it. And like I said, for me, partially it's my why, so people don't go through the same situation as I have done. It's about being stubborn. I said I was going to do it, so now I'm going to do it. And especially now that people have subscribed, it's more important than ever to actually go do it. And well, also time-wise, I literally always said I'm not going to get older than 50 until someone said don't say that because then it might happen. So I stopped saying it, but I still feel this urgency. I don't know why, but I do know that we cannot count on us getting old and then in a very good, healthy state. And I have to applaud all those people who nowadays get out there and show us what life can have in store for us. I mean, years ago, I already saw Michael J. Fox having Parkinson's disease. And then recently, of course, I talked to Tommy Burke, who has written his book. And what is the message that he wants to get out there? Well, make sure that you remain healthy and that you keep on moving because he's got Parkinson's disease. And again, it shows like what can we expect when maybe things at some point turn around, and then it's good to actually have learned to keep on going. Now, here's one truth, and that's I don't give up. I don't. And even when I was walking on crutches, I still went on the plane. I still got to travel even when I was on my own. And I have so many amazing memories. But there's also one other thing. When I stopped working for a boss, and I always say I can't go back working for a boss. Maybe the only exception would be to work at Starbucks. So I would love to do that, but I can't do that because I cannot stand for a long period of time. So that makes no sense. But every time I see like we're looking for, I'm like, oh, that would be so cool. Just, it's the whole idea of being a barista, and then of course also having my own chain of stores and everything that well, and I like talking to people, so that might be the exception. But talking to one of my other clients yesterday, we got to talk about people I'm not talking about my client, but someone he knows in this case. And we got back to how people at some point say, you know what, I'm going to start for myself. There's this opportunity, but they actually don't know how that works. There's such a big difference between working for a company or being the one who has to come up with, okay, what's the budget I've got? What am I going to do? How am I going to get more customers? And especially, how do I adapt when things are changing? Now, I had to adapt this last decade nonstop. And, well, things have happened that I didn't expect. When I started working full-time in my own business, I already had a huge number of customers, but that concept was largely built on the fact that the health insurance company would pay for the sessions, and they stopped doing it. And then, of course, when I couldn't stand and walk anymore, that threw everything off base because I couldn't live a normal life anymore. So, like I said, I had to reinvent myself, which was a good thing because then I started guiding and coaching people. And well, the dream to actually get things done out there online, that was there. It was always there. And today, when I was writing about the courage and the whys behind that first step, I realized that we can do it, but it's the lack of support, the lack of knowledge that actually can get us stuck. So now let's see. I totally agree. If you can do something today, do it. No one can promise how much time we have left. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And I will repeat this, seeing people who are still doing things when they're in their 70s or in their 80s, I have to applaud them for doing it. And, well, for me, knowing that being healthy is not something that we can take for granted, well, it's one more of those reasons to keep on going. Now, having said all of this, for me, it's about, well, apart from the whys that I told you, it's about getting it out there. I really want to get it out there. And I want to have the entire challenge finished before the end of the month, because I want people to come over to Chicago next month and then take them on a coaching trip, which is a long weekend in Chicago, where we are going to work on ourselves, or better said, I'm going to guide you to work on yourselves, and then, like I said, also exploring the city. And my idea was, let's start with taking things easy. So there's a free course, a free challenge. You get out there, then you get an idea of how I work, how I give training, and then we take things to the next level. And then yesterday I was like, well, maybe I need to make sure that that opt-in page for the Chicago trip is already out there. Maybe people want to skip a few steps, and that could be true too. So it's all the time about what makes sense and what am I going to do in which order in order to improve things. We talked about giving yourself grace. We talked about if you cannot do it today, that's okay. Give yourself grace, but don't lose track of it. So what I mean is, don't stop doing it and then pick it up like maybe a couple of days later, or worse, a year later, or maybe never. It's about listening to what other people are saying and then thinking about what can I apply myself. But maybe the most important thing, at least for me, and that's because I'm all about mindsets, is I know the fact that not doing things when I said I was going to do things have on the brain. And when we want to learn to get out there, to learn to muster up the courage, then we also need to learn how we teach ourselves certain things. So if we teach our brain we're not going to do it, then, well, we can say we're going to do things, but it's not going to work out. And when we give in to, well, this is scary, I don't know how this is going to work, then, it's not just about taking it easy, it's about allowing ourselves to not be the best that we can do. And it starts with one thing, but what's the next thing? So now, I'm not talking about people who are dealing with anxiety here. I mean, dealing with anxiety takes a whole bunch of different things to do. But I still believe that that support is a major factor in this. Being able to talk about it, express yourself, getting to understand what's going on is also very important. And yes, taking that next step, no matter how small, is equally as important. And I do believe that when you actually see results, that also makes a huge difference, because then we get back to inspiration and we get back to incentives. And yes, life can be a struggle. For some, it's physically, for some, it's mentally, for some, it's both. Me being a neurodivergent, I know what it's like to live in a world that somehow seems to be perceiving things different compared to how I see things. But then again, I'm working with a lot of clients who see things the same way because we're all neurodivergent. That makes things a lot better. And like I said, I want to prevent them from experiencing those things that I had to go through. Now, of course, I cannot be ahead of this for all of them. I mean, a number of them who are, especially when they're on the spectrum, and they have a struggle like every day going on because, you know, overwhelm, everything that's going on, thinking about it, not knowing where to go to. Well, that's at a level, and you know, that's not something that I can make disappear, but I can support them in making life a little bit easier. And like I said, when there are people who are now realizing, hey, things are not going the way they should, and being able to help them see things differently, well, you know, that's a huge reward. Now, there's one more incentive. It's called Chicago. It's called Chicago PD. And one of the things I said was, I've got a shirt for every day that I go live. And so today I brought this shirt. So it says Mollies and Lotties. So for those who have watched Chicago PD, they know what I'm talking about. So when you watch Chicago Fire, and no, I know that not everyone watches Chicago PD and Chicago Fire and or Chicago Med, but they have bought this bar, which is called Molly's. And yes, I went there. First time I went to Chicago. I don't think we went there the second time. But the first time we did go to Lottie's, so they say Molly's by day, Lottie's by night. And well, I got this shirt, so, and it's so nice to actually see how they're doing things, what the set is. Well, it's inspired by Lottie's, and they rebuilt that set, but then a little bit bigger. Same with the police district. I actually got to see it. And it's weird to actually see it like, oh my God, that's what I'm seeing, you know, when I'm watching the series. And then, oh, but that's, you know, it's bigger. And it's just fun to watch it. But it's also so inspiring, because if you see the amount of people that are actually doing stuff to make it work. And yes, Tommy Burke was one of those people too. There are so many people involved. There is so much equipment involved. It's beyond what you can imagine until you get to see it. And I would love it for other people to be able to see it too. And I know that a lot of people don't want to do it on their own. And so that's also part of sort of the incentive, you know, to get people to go out there. But my idea is more like, well, you know, I go there for a long weekend, and then when I have time, you know, I'm going to see. And I don't know if it's actually still possible because of security reasons. You know, there are a lot of crazy people out there. So, but yes, it's part of the incentive. It's part of the inspiration. So I've listed a number of things when it comes to inspiration and incentive. You know, getting out there, seeing things, things which have inspired me. Chicago Fire actually helped me to deal with a client I lost because of suicide. And watching it and realizing that we cannot be held accountable for all people's actions, that really helped me. And being in a situation which well, actually during COVID a lot of things happened. I had to support a lot of people. Like I said, one of the clients decided to opt out. I couldn't change that. I had to come to terms with it. I think that was the most important thing. And then there were a lot of others who were on the verge of doing the same thing. And it was like, I need to make sure that that I can help them change their lives by seeing perspective again. Now, doing this challenge, when it comes to things on a personal level, I think that still has to do with perspective. When it comes to business level, when things don't go the way that you want them to, it can have a severe impact on how your business is evolving and if you can support yourself in the future. So if you can't, that can have a dramatic effect on you when you are not taken seriously by your staff or by your spouse or your kids. That can have severe impact on you. So personal life and business life, they cannot be separated. Same with when you are an employee somewhere. And there are so many reasons nowadays to get overwhelmed, not just because someone is on the spectrum or a neurodivergent, but because of what is expected from us. That it's more important than ever to get that message out there, like, hey, but what is it that you want to get out there? What is your message? What is important to you? So you don't just work in order to have a living, so you can actually have a place to stay and food to eat. And those things don't necessarily combine very well. Some people, especially nowadays with, at least here, the shortage of houses, you need to have a major income. And I never thought that it would be necessary here in the Netherlands to have multiple jobs. But yes, there are people who need multiple jobs. And of course, that has its effect, because if they have children of their own, but they have to work and they cannot guide them, well, then it becomes sheer chaos. So I guess this was a very, well, I've shared with you a number of things. Everyone should watch though, yeah. I've shared a number of things which really come from the heart and from, I know what it's like to be ignored, to not be taken seriously, to be overwhelmed. And if I can prevent people from getting in that same situation, that makes so much difference. And then I still will say, but at this moment, it's also about, see, I can do it. Because that's what we need to do. Anyway, I want you to think about what it is that you've been postponing, what you have not been giving priority because you feel you need to give other things priority. So you don't know what's going to happen. Don't wait till you finally get the money when you are retired or whatever. But see if there is some small thing that you can already do today, which is fun. And, well, I always say if I want to get momentum in the flow, I best do so when I'm outside. And today I really ran into that I wasn't outside, I was here and I was distracted, and I was like, okay, so I want to listen to the music, but I cannot do it watching TV. So YouTube, streaming, all the things, it's not going to work. Okay, so I need to either put my headphones on or just, nowadays that's so, the sound has improved so much. So I could just put my iPhone there, have it charged, and in the meanwhile listen. And it was enough to actually enjoy the music. And at the same time, it was not too distracting because I needed to actually be able to gather my thoughts and get them out there. And it was nice to actually have that music in the background. It makes me happy. I'm still happy. So, again, what makes you happy? What is that you want to do? And it doesn't have to be a major thing to do, but start doing it. Give yourself that grace, give yourself the opportunity to enjoy certain things. Think about what it is that you need to do now so you can get a great future where you are still healthy, both physically and mentally. And when you are dealing with certain things like I am, then to make sure that at least what you can do right now, you can still do down the line. If you are inspired, and there's that thing that you want to get out there, make sure that you sign up. By the time that you sign up now, things are in order. So go to ladylexi.com/CCCF. So CCC, the Chicago Courage Challenge. F for free. It's still for free, not for long though. And do it in capitals, sign up, and go watch it. Get inspired. There are worksheets, there are videos, there are blog posts. But go do it. And give yourself that feeling like, hey, I'm worth it. Tell yourself, I'm worth it. I'm worth to have fun. We don't know how this life is going to work out. We don't know what's going to happen afterwards. But what I do know, despite whether or not there's something called reincarnation, I do believe that we have this obligation to make the most of it right now. So let's go do it. Who is your role model? Who can you be a role model for? Think about that one and leave a comment. Do you want to know more about the Chicago Courage Challenge, about the behind the scenes? Then go there, click there, yes, right there.